It is time now for your main event. Past the Rock presents Wrestling Royale. And introducing your host from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Introducing first your producer, Patrick. And last, the hater in chief, Ceez. Now ring the bell and start the show.
This is Past the Rock.
Oh man, I think that's the second time I've heard our opening for this one. Really love that one.
Thanks. I made it in like an hour this morning.
Oh, listen.
To be fair, I wrote that riff like 10 years ago and haven't used it for anything yet. So.
Oh, perfect. You had something in the like just waiting for it to be used, and you found the right occasion. Rock and wrestling just goes together. And we are the Past the Rock wrestling show, Wrestling Royale, baby. Producer Pat on the ones and twos. And your hater-in-chief, LCs. And this is the proper episode 1 of Wrestling Royale. You probably saw episode 0. Hell yeah. You probably saw the episode 0 tacked onto one of our previous full mainline channel episodes, which we hope you enjoyed. Now, it's been a minute, scheduling conflicts and whatnot. We had to, push this episode back a little bit, but it's fine because really, we're not on any timeline. All right, we'll talk about what's happening in the wide world of wrestling as it happens. But for right now, I wanted to talk to Patrick about his very first wrestling show experience, which was, I believe, March 8th when we went to see Friday Night Smackdown?
March 8th at the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. We sat in the FedEx suite.
That's right. Courtesy of, I don't know who, your company or FedEx?
My company's FedEx rep gives us tickets to events at the American Airlines Center. And
hell yeah.
We picked that one. It was partially a birthday gift for my girlfriend. She came with us. Her birthday was the next day. And yeah, also just because I've never gotten to experience pro wrestling live.
Yeah.
Watched a bit in elementary school. I liked it, and then just kind of moved on with my life. But I still love the concept, and I really want to see what that was like.
And with that said, having a lot more experience going to these events. This is my first time experiencing it in a suite. I'm very much used to being in the thick of things with the crowd, yelling and, yelling obscenities sometimes, things that are definitely not safe for children to hear. And boy, let me tell you this. I was like, you know what? We're in your company suite, or, your company and there's other people, but it's the FedEx suite. I am a guest, so I was like, I'm going to be on my best behavior. I was the first one to arrive into the suite by a large margin. Okay, I was like, wow, nobody is here right now. So I just go take my seat after doing some walk-in and whatnot, and I see who's going to be seated next to me in the suite to our left. And I was like, maybe I can get away with some yelling. And then I see 2 little children just right there, and I'm like, oh. All right, I really have to be on my best behavior. I'm not trying to get their parents to just come over the rail and be like, hey, you shut your mouth, man. I'm like,
there would be nothing more pro wrestling than that, though, right?
True. And then, we could have had a match in the ring, and that would have been great. It wouldn't have been sanctioned by WWE or really anybody, but it still would have been a great time.
So when you've gone previously, have you ever been on the floor?
I have been... not on the floor. Well, actually, hold on.
Not like just lower bowl, I guess, is what I mean. Like not
lower bowl. So I have for small promotions, but for AEW, WWE, I'm either in the 300s up top or somewhere in the 100s, but like on the upper end of the 100s. Not really that close to the lower bowl, not in the lowest parts of the lower bowl. And it's really weird for the AEW shows. They run it at the Colwell Center in Garland. That one, I mean, everything feels so far back. I mean, it's a small arena, but the way that the layout goes, it just feels like everything's really like at a weird incline where everything's not stacked on top of each other like in the AAC.
Yeah.
So even though there's not really a bad seat in the house, you never really feel close to the ring. And
I'm just now looking at what it costs to sit down low, at least in Tulsa, and it is expensive.
Oh yeah. The people who can afford that shit down there, I have no idea. You'd be shocked to learn there's like in the whole meta of the fan base, there is a guy known as like the green shirt guy, and he is almost at every single event. I don't know what he does for a living, but he makes it a point to sit in
money for a living.
Yeah, he makes it a point to be sitting on the hard side cam. So for those who don't know what hard side cam means, it just means you're on the side the camera's facing, and you can just see him in the audience every time, every event. Doesn't matter if it's like international.
It's like wrestling's
the back-to-back thing. Yeah, that's what he is, man. He is the ultimate WWE super fan. But I'll say this: for the experience was definitely different. I was just kind of watching it like as if I was watching it at home. Because watching it at home is just completely different experience, right? Sometimes you can get into it, but also you're just like chilling. You got other things going on around you. You can get up, grab snacks, whatever. But when you're at the event, you're just like right in with the in the standard audience format. Whether you're sitting up top, lower bowl, whatever. You just feel like you're a part of something. And I didn't necessarily not feel that way. I don't know if you didn't feel that way, but like when The Rock came out, right? Everybody started stood on their feet.
Yeah, we got to see a brand new intro for The Rock with all that lightning.
Yep, and then they actually built on that for the next week.
I can't imagine what it's going to be like at WrestleMania. Probably wild.
Yes. Oh man, the production quality for WrestleMania entrances is top notch, man. But you know what? Let's get into it. Let me ask you.
Yeah.
All right. So, what did you expect going into the event? Like, what were your expectations, just in general? Like, what did you want to see? And then,
I guess I didn't really have a whole lot of expectations outside of, I've seen what the product is like on TV, so I guess I just kind of expected it to be similar to that. And the first thing, obviously, that I noticed is how quiet it is when you're actually in the arena during the fights and stuff, because you don't have the broadcasters. You don't hear that. And that's, 90% of the TV production is listening to those guys yell. So that's a bit of a shock if you aren't aware that it's like that. And, yeah. I mean, it's not a good or bad thing, I guess. It wasn't what I knew. I didn't know that's what it was. So that was interesting. And then even the couple of minutes that I walked around the arena, it was crazy to me how quiet it is once you get on the other side of all those curtains between all the sections. Like, you can't hear anything that's happening when you're walking around the outside. But as far as the actual production itself, the laser show, the lights, the music, when the fans are actually into it and chanting, reciting the lines they're supposed to recite, that's incredible. That's really fun to be a part of. I wish I knew everything I was supposed to say, but it's still fun to hear everyone else do it.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? You're not alone in that. Weirdly enough, before that event and since that event at work, for those of you who don't know, I work at a lounge at night sometimes. Clientele's white collar, right? Not people that you would normally assume to be wrestling fans. And I have heard just at different tables people talking about that Smackdown.
That's cool.
And people talking about wrestling. I'm like, this is not the crowd that I would expect wrestling to talk about. But one thing that I've noticed, and the reason kind of why this show is being birthed, is because we're noticing that wrestling is crossing over into the mainstream yet again. Like, it's had its time in the sun before, like the Attitude Era, right? it used to be cool to be a wrestling fan. You know, you had your WCW, WWF at the time. You picked your company, you repped your shirts, your wrestlers, whatever. Everybody was reciting, you know, Austin 316 or that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so, or you know, anything The Rock would say.
Austin 316 shirt is one of the most crazy fads that for 2 or 3 year period it seemed like everyone you knew had one. Even though you knew not all those people even watched wrestling.
Oh, yeah. That's right, because people just wanted to be a part of that subculture, because it's wild to see that, you know, with wrestling, and I've heard this a lot when I was at these tables, and what I kind of wanted to get to was like, a lot of people were throwing the word around subculture, and I'm like, yeah, it kind of is its own little subculture, because what other events are you going to, like when you go to a sporting event, you're not buying some replica Larry O'Brien trophy or, you know, Lombardi trophy, but at wrestling events, you're buying replica, you see people buying replica title belts, right? Replica WWE championship, heavyweight championships, tag team champions. You see people coming to the event with the belts on, and you get people just gathered together and then they're shouting things out that wrestlers would say. And you just feel like, all right, this is like a community. It's almost tight knit, but it's not. It's just a bunch of strangers.
It's similar enough to like college football or Korean baseball or European soccer, where it's not like most of the American major pro sports, I guess.
Yeah,
it's a real communal aspect outside of just cheering. Like there's stuff going on that everyone gets to participate in, even though they're not actual participants.
Yeah. And did you feel that when you were walking around? I know you got there a little bit like right before the show started. So
yeah, I mean,
I don't know if you got to see that.
I saw a lot of people in the lines with their belts on, over their shoulders or whatever. Yeah, I mean, everyone had the gear. It's cool. Yeah. I was surprised by some of the demographics. I think I pointed out, I expected it to be very, very heavily Caucasian, dudes. And it was a pretty decent mix.
Yeah.
I didn't see as many of the Asian persuasion, but I think everybody else was pretty well represented there.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I mean, at least in Dallas, like I haven't gone to any major wrestling events like WWE, AEW, or any of the other big companies outside of DFW, but I have partaken in events in Chicago, like small indie promotions whenever I went to go visit Tyler, a friend of the show. And that one, it is a little bit more on the Caucasian side, right? But all of those shows took place in like the Chicago suburbs, and they are smaller companies. But the big companies, you will see a large, diverse mix of everything.
And yeah, I mean, maybe I should have known it was that way, but I was pleasantly surprised that there's more representation there than I would have expected going in.
Oh yeah,
especially because, like I said pre-show, wrestling towns are usually NASCAR towns too, and you go to NASCAR, you're not going to quite see that demographic.
Yeah, although
there's some, but it's not the level of that.
Yeah, it's two different types of events too. But like, also there was a healthy mix of, I think a lot of people think you go to like professional wrestling events and you're going to see like 90% guys, and then whoever brings their significant other along, and then right. And then I don't know if you saw this, but I know when I was walking through the arena, it's like, yeah, there's plenty of women here coming to enjoy the event because they too like professional wrestling.
Yeah, who doesn't want to see a bunch of in-shape dudes oiled up?
Beating the shit out of each other.
Or basically hugging or...
Yeah. Listen, professional wrestling, it can get zesty sometimes in there. You're like, out of context, you're like, this is kind of...
It's not quite,
and then in context...
It's not quite UFC where you have guys looking like they're just actively having sex on the ground during the fight, but... You still get the tights and the oiled up, so. And let's not forget the tension. There's some tension in the air, because there has to be tension between like the drama, right? And so you're like, ooh, I can cut the tension between. You got these two half naked, oiled up men staring each other in the face, just like real intensely, and you're like, all right, are you gonna fight or are you going to, But with the show, like. Talking more about the aspect of what you saw, right?
did you get enough wrestling? Because as we were talking off mic, there was a lot of talking and there's a lot of, other segments that didn't necessarily involve action, because SmackDown and Raw, they're a TV show.
Yeah, and so that
happens to have wrestling.
That's something where, again, like I said, I feel like you probably get, and maybe it's obviously different if you're like right down there next to the rink or the walk-up ramp or whatever, but I definitely feel like I enjoy the experience more on TV because it feels smoother and more natural. Like when all of a sudden the arena goes dark and they're cleaning things up and they're playing a video on the screen, you wouldn't get that feeling at home. It'll just cut to that video. But I mean, yes, I think I got enough wrestling. I didn't feel like I was cheated out of any actual action. I think it's a good balance, at least as far as the show we went to, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, I can't overstate how much I actually did enjoy it. Not that I didn't think I was going to, I just wasn't sure how much I was going to.
Word. And speaking of some of the action that we saw, how or what was your opinion when you saw a pseudo celebrity in action in Logan Paul? Because that was the opening segment of the show, and I wasn't expecting that.
He's really good
at all.
He's really good for this style of entertainment. He's just the perfect heel, especially because I don't know if it would have worked if he came up through the WWE, even if he was the exact same. I think him being a YouTube personality that everybody already knew obviously helped. But he's playing it perfectly. He's getting his drink sponsored. They put that Prime logo on the mat, which
threw me off,
just for advertising purposes, and then so that the one guy could who went in there and
KSI, which is his boxing rival, if you will, and business partner.
Yeah, he came in, but someone came in and beat up KSI.
That is Randy Orton.
Randy Orton. Yeah, that part was really funny. When you just knew he was gonna be pouring it out on him and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that was great. He leaves the ring. KSI just has the "oh no, he's behind me, isn't he?" look on his face.
Oh, because he
turns around.
He came out from under the stage, right? Is that?
Yes, he did.
That was cool. I don't know how they did that exactly. I don't know if there's like a floor down there or something.
So
obviously we never saw him go under there, but
so here's the thing. I didn't see him go under there, but that's like the beauty of the event is it's a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Look over here.
Look over here, and so you don't really see them. Now they could have built a trap door.
I don't know.
But here's
the American Airlines Center. Yeah, there could be an opening there. I don't know.
There could be, but typically like the ring itself and the whole layout of the entire show, I mean, it's going to be ground level. So whenever you go to a concert, if you happen to be on the floor at the AAC, you're just walking on pretty much like, paved concrete or whatever. That's what's under the ring, right? So they could have had Randy just be under the show for quite some time. No, it's not out of the.
He came in.
It's not out of the realm.
After when they were cleaning up because they had the what do you call? There was a term for the fight before the show started.
Good. Yeah, that's what we call a dark match. So there's for those who don't know, dark matches are just matches that happen before the TV product airs. So or after it airs. Either way, it's dark. It's dark because no one's watching it on TV.
Yeah,
is what.
And that was weird to me because I was like, people seem to know who they were supposed to be cheering for in that, but I was like, I have no idea. I didn't know what was going on during that. It was kind of I think those guys are probably the ones that are going to be trying the hardest because they're trying to prove themselves to get on TV later.
Yes, and that's a lot of what you'll see on dark matches. You have these opportunity, or so some of the reasons for dark matches, at least the pre-show, right? Pre-show, you want to get your guys who aren't getting any TV time but are really good in the ring. You want them to get in there, warm the crowd up a little bit, right? And also, you want to get your reps in, but also as the performer or the wrestler themselves, they want to show the people backstage running the show, hey, look, we're connecting with the crowd, right? We may not have an angle or otherwise known as a storyline going,
character.
But we want to show you that we can connect with the crowd just on our ring work alone. And if you can do that, that's going to be an opportunity maybe later down the line for them, for the story writers, for the booker to get you something to work with on TV.
It'd be like if you go to the Mavs game and before the game they just have like a 3-on-3 G League game.
Right.
Which would be awesome. I would love that.
Or it's like having the mascot versus children game.
Oh, hell yeah.
To have something like that, that would be great. Yeah, but no, back to the I guess back to what we were talking about though, with that first opening segment. Dude, KSI, which I don't really know too much about him. All I know is that he has not lost to one of the Paul brothers, either of the Paul brothers in boxing, weirdly enough. And he sold that RKO, that move. He took that move like a champ. Like he's been working on that.
Yeah.
Which kudos to him, because a lot of celebrities who go in and take a move, take a bump, if you will, looks kind of clunky, or looks like they didn't really work on it too much, or they weren't sure what to do. This guy threw himself, laid himself out perfectly for the move. So kudos to that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes a more permanent feature, because it seems like they're kind of angling to give is it Logan
Paul?
Give Logan something else, give him a partner to be a heel with, especially if the Prime thing is going to be a real thing.
So currently in storyline, he does technically have allies. They're not like full-time or anything, but the guys that you saw Randy Orton wrestle later on, after that segment was over, Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, those guys have aligned themselves with Logan Paul. They're not necessarily like what we call a faction, which is a group of wrestlers making a team, right? Like a mob style type of team or whatever. No, but they do align themselves whenever Logan Paul is there on camera or in the show in attendance. Because for all intents and purposes, Logan Paul is a part-time wrestler. So he's not there at all the shows. Clearly busy guy. He has his own drink company. He has Empire. He has his own podcast and whatnot. So this is just one of his many activities that he does. But when he does it really freaking well. So I would be surprised personally if KSI comes in and does anything.
I guess I thought Logan Paul was more of a integral part of the entertainment.
The program?
Yeah, the program. I was gonna say the Federation, but they don't call it that anymore. So
no. So he is essentially, for all intents and purposes, a special attraction.
Yeah, because it's good idea. It's genius.
Yeah, it is. You keep him fresh. And the downside to that is he doesn't get as much reps in the ring wise. So he's always going to be really good because of his athleticism.
Yeah, his showmanship though is so good. Like it felt like he belonged more than some of the actual. Like as far as like his mic work, felt like it belonged way more than some of the other guys, some of the other actual main cast, I guess.
Yeah, and some people's strengths are their mic work, some their in-ring work, and some can do both really, really well. And some people suffer because they can't do one better than the other. Like, if you can work really well on the mic, they'll give you every opportunity to fail in the ring. But if you are just good in the ring, but not really good at the mic, you have so much more limited options, because at the end of the day, they are trying to put the
matches,
yeah, you'll either be stuck in dark matches, or you're just going to be floundering around with not much to do.
Be someone's
they'll put you in matches, right, with more developed characters, if you will. But you'll probably be taking the loss on that match. You'll look really good doing it, but again, because you don't know how to talk on the mic, you're gonna have problems. Now that's why there's some wonderful tag teams out there where someone's like, all right, that's the in-ring work guy, and this is the character, the guy who drives the story on the mic. And you'll see that the more you consume the product as you go forward in your journey to maybe become a genuine wrestling fan. But yeah, after that though. After that, let's talk about the main attraction of that show, because our namesake was in attendance.
What the rock is cooking.
Yeah.
So as you were mentioning, you were very impressed with the presentation of his entrance, and you could feel this is thrown around a lot, at least on the internet. But the term like aura, like
Yeah.
you could feel the aura. But I felt it
I mean, he's
personally, like him
obviously,
walking down.
I mean, he's one of the world's biggest stars. So for him to come back and do this, he's going to always have that.
Yeah, but it was just so for me. I personally, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about seeing The Rock. I've seen The Rock before at WrestleMania 32, I believe it was. He was like the host of WrestleMania or something like that, and that was a really cool experience. He even had like a 4-second match, 6-second match, which I know you're thinking like, how do you have a match in 6 seconds? It happened, trust me. But to see him come back, where they were initially teasing how he was going to come back, right? Like he was going to be the main event, him and his cousin Roman Reigns. And I was like, man, this is such bullshit. And then to see how they pivoted based on fan reaction and where he is now, it's like, man, this guy's doing some great work. And so watching him come out to that new entrance, I was legitimately just kind of in awe, just like, wow, look how everything's come together. And I'm just watching The Rock here. I'm like, fuck, that's him. He is him. So now I don't know if you had any expectations of him like getting physical with any of the performers.
I think because I knew that they had the WrestleMania stuff coming up, he was mostly just going to be there to talk. I didn't really expect to see him do a whole lot.
Yeah. And speaking of the talking part, clearly he was there as one of the main players, obviously, but yeah, to get slapped. But one of the main talkers and someone who talked, I feel a little bit more concisely than what The Rock was doing, because it did feel like The Rock got a little repetitive with what he was trying to say, but it could be because they were pressed for time, which I don't know if you felt that, but it felt like at certain points of the show, you're just like, oh, hey, we're coming into the end of the broadcast time, and where's The Rock?
Yeah, and that's the thing where I'm not familiar enough to really know. And I know reading afterwards, they said that it kind of ended awkwardly and all that. But yeah, I didn't feel any of that just because I'm not well enough versed. I don't watch enough to know what the rhythm's like. So
yeah, and I'm sure you were wondering when you saw ringside. So we had the characters. We had The Rock, Roman Reigns, and then there are challengers, Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins.
Their entrance, Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins' entrance, if they had sped that up just a little bit, because that took forever. That felt like that took forever, which I get. They're supposed to. It was kind of like a surprise. Here they come out of the audience, which is what I don't know how often that happens. I know from stuff that I've read. What was the old group that Roman Reigns was in called? The Shield.
The Shield.
They do that.
Yeah.
I've seen them do that a couple times, but
yeah, they came in through the audience quite a bit. So yeah, that felt like it dragged on. Like it felt like the timing of everything was off for this. And I'll tell you what was like the dead giveaway, that something was off, right? So, because you're still relatively new to the product, though having been exposed to it in the past, you haven't consumed as much, so you're not used to the tropes.
I was not really paying full attention to the production.
Yeah, so you're not used to some of the built-in tropes of WWE. One of the biggest tropes is if you see a bunch of dudes who look like they're security surrounding the ring with a quote-unquote general manager or some authority figure, that's when you can expect all hell to break loose. Everybody's punching everybody, and it usually ends with...
I was wondering, because they kept showing us that the security detail in front of the locker room. They were supposed to be guarding... Rhodes.
They're guarding both sides.
Okay.
Yeah, they're guarding both sides from essentially interacting.
I might have been out of the seats at that time when they like went to check on them and they weren't in there anymore.
Yeah, I think you went out and grab a drink or something.
But I did wonder, like, they're showing us these security guards so much, something should happen with this. But
yeah. And so, like I was saying, this is where I knew something was off, because security usually gets into the ring. The authority figure tries to separate both sides. And you could kind of tell as they were talking, you're like, oh, shit, they are pressed for time, aren't they? I say you can tell. If you have been around the block with the program, you can tell they were pressed for time.
Where do you think where does that happen? Like, did throughout the night, just a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there somehow? Because I
pretty much,
think
man.
this stuff's
Pretty
pretty
much.
well rehearsed, isn't it?
Not really. Like, so the way the production usually goes, so every match, every segment has a producer, right? So somebody who goes over with the talent, like, hey, this is what we have in mind for this segment. This is how many commercial breaks are going to be in your segment, right? So some people have like a quick squash match, which is just not a competitive thing. We saw that with the girl who was introduced as Tiffany Stratton. If you heard it was the girl
her
who
new Tiffy Time song.
Yeah, her new Tiffy Time song. She had that great moonsault off the top.
She's really good, man. Obviously, I get why the fans like her, but she's also good.
Oh no, like the looks aside, I would genuinely tell you that the fans love her because one, she's a great heel, and two, she's really good in the ring.
She's acrobatic as hell.
Absolutely. But she had a quick squash match. But there was a match that we saw that for me was kind of a stinker. It wasn't bad by any means, but it wasn't as entertaining as it could be.
Is it the Dragon Lee, Angel Garza?
No, it was the Bobby Lashley versus Karrion Kross.
Yeah, the disqualification.
Yeah, so that match felt like it dragged on way too long, especially for a feud that's really not going anywhere. Like, there's just no really rhyme or reason for why the feud even exists, at least from what I've been seeing. So that one felt like it dragged on, and that could have been cut shorter to allow for more time in the main event. But also, whenever you run... Oh, go ahead. No. All right, so also, whenever you have, like, something like The Rock and Roman Reigns who have two very long entrances, they have very prolonged entrances, and then you have the whole thing with Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins also taking a really long time to get the ring. I get that, like, you have these big names and you want people to tune in and stay for the bulk of the program, because if you put it up first, you're going to risk losing a lot of people throughout the duration of the show.
But yeah,
I get that.
You run the risk of time running out, yeah.
Yeah, you run the risk of time running out, which it did, and it ends with a slap, and that's it. Like, for those who are watching at home, if you're wondering what happened after the cameras went off, nothing. They just
awkward, yeah.
A little awkward, and I get why they didn't want them to start trading blows and have security get involved. However, in this new modern age of, like, YouTube and Twitch and TikTok, and
you could also do, paid subscribers get the bonus content.
Please don't do that, WWE, please. You're already very expensive as it is sometimes. But you could have had what was expected to be the all-out brawl between both sides, and security essentially being fodder and getting their asses kicked, and then you have your two good guys standing tall as your heels retreat, because that's kind of what the vibe felt like when Cody slapped The Rock. Is like, all right, they're gonna get one over on these guys, and nothing happened. Like, just The Rock. Here's the problem, and let me tell you about this, Patrick. Just from a story perspective and like how the in-ring psychology of this works. That slap to The Rock, right, and then cameras end. From a storyline perspective and the way you're selling it to your fans, it makes The Rock kind of look like a bitch for just not retaliating, right?
I felt that way in the in the arena.
Yeah, and so I'm pretty sure I was like, damn, The Rock just got punked, right? So doing that, you make your guys look bad, and you don't want your guys to look bad. You want both sides to look strong, because there's already debate going about, like, who's going to take the pin on night one, right? Because you have two heavyweight champions, you have your red hot babyface and Cody Rhodes, and then you have The Rock, your special attraction, all-time legend. But somebody has to lose, and somebody has to be the guy staring up at the lights when that 3 count hits the mat, right? So before that, you want to build everybody up as much as possible. That way nobody looks bad in defeat. But when you have a moment like that where you just bitch slap, cameras cut off.
And that's crazy considering what The Rock's done with his contracts with action movies, where he's like, I can't get beat up more than Vin Diesel gets beat up, or
Yeah. Well, Rock going back to his roots as a wrestler, he knows how business is done. Like,
and yeah, it's
somebody, so he knows he can't necessarily pull that off all the time.
The timing on that, it was cool to see that intro, but this isn't their main event. They're pushing for WrestleMania. They could have shortened some of that extra time. Like, this isn't the big deal. WrestleMania is the big deal. We didn't need the full new intro. You know what I mean? Is that fair?
Yeah, sort of. I see your point on that. I guess what I push back on with that is that
was this the
you
first
want people to
event that he came to this year?
No. This is like the second or third event.
I could see the first one, but
what WWE's kind of doing, and I believe The Rock's doing, is they're really listening to their audience online, talking about The Rock wanting, like, the fans want to hear The Rock's old heel music, which you can just go online, look up Hollywood Rock theme, and they're like, all right, well, he's progressively becoming more and more of a bad guy, more and more of an asshole. And you're seeing it with the evolution of his entrance, because prior to this, it was just, if you smell The Rock, here's cooking. And then his normal music, normal entrance. And now, on this one, he's coming out. Full asshole. New entrance. It's going to get people talking. It's going to get people to get, online clicks. So I get why they want to drive as much interaction online as they possibly can, and then fine tweak it so that when WrestleMania comes around, we get this giant, incredible entrance that's been kind of built up to this point. So I can see it from both perspectives in that.
That's
in
fine.
That regard.
No, I was thinking, like, if you're already short on time, but then I don't know what the plan was for after the slap. Anyways, I guess you're saying it was probably just going to be a wild
brawl.
Chaos brawl, and that's how it would probably end, was with the brawl happening.
That's how it should have ended, and the fact that even though cameras went off, they didn't go ahead and do that was really disappointing. Because, like, man, like, you already have
we would have loved it, and they were still doing events after that, anyways.
Yeah, and although those events were never gonna hit the air.
Well, no, but I mean, it wasn't like they were like, oh, we got to hit the fucking road,
Yeah, because I believe you told me that at least on our ticket, it said time goes from like 6:45 to 9:30.
I think it was like a 9:45 hard out or something like that.
Something like that, and
maybe 10. I think it said 10.
Yeah, but like maybe 10. So for me, I was just like, you know what? You have so much like behind the scenes content that you put on your YouTube channel. Why not just put the brawl on YouTube and get people talking? And sure, people will complain like, why wasn't this on air? But man, you don't leave the people who came into attendance feeling like they're wanting more, right? Or feeling like, man, I feel like I didn't get enough. Yeah. Like I felt shortchanged. So, me personally, I felt a little shortchanged. But that's just because like I know the tropes and shit. But would you say you're saying you didn't feel shortchanged whatsoever?
It just felt awkward. That
felt a little awkward.
I didn't know enough to know like, oh, they had to rush it. So I was like, I just thought they just didn't really plan. I just thought their bit was bad, but it just turns out they didn't have time.
Yeah, they didn't have time, so it does make things awkward, and it does build.
And you were right about when The Rock's talking, like some of their speeches there, they could have cut everybody back a bit on some of that.
Yeah,
there wasn't a lot of meat in what they were saying to each other.
Yeah, because The Rock kept repeating, so the stakes are there. Like he kept repeating what the stakes were for their match.
Well, he was he was introducing him that night, right? That was the first time he had brought that up.
No, like that was so the stakes were brought up on Monday Night Raw, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so Bloodline rules. I believe it was on Monday Night Raw. So it's like the team that loses is like Cody and Seth lose, and it's Bloodline rules for Roman's match. And then if Cody and Seth Rollins win, then the Bloodline is barred from ringside. Contractually, they are barred from ringside. They can't be there to interfere in the match whatsoever, which leads me to believe that, and you'll hear this term as you go along in your journey of wrestling them, overbooked, right? Overbooked means way too much is happening. I believe they're gonna lose. Like Cody and Seth Rollins are gonna lose night one, so we can have the most overbooked bullshit ending ever, but in the best way possible.
Well, also
on night 2.
And I remember what I read was because of what did The Rock say? Where that if Rhodes loses night 2, he'll never be eligible for another undisputed world champion again.
Yeah,
And
so essentially,
basically that just says he's not going to lose that fight because they're not going to do that to him.
No, and it's natural to say that Roman Reigns' title reign is approaching its natural conclusion. Now, there's plenty of instances throughout his 1,300 days as champion where someone can be like, "Oh, he could have lost here, he could have lost there." Yeah, but they were waiting for the right guy, and they found it in Cody Rhodes.
I know Roman Reigns has been controversial for a decade plus now, as people feel like the WWE is pushing him and nobody likes him, is what I'm reading. Or they don't like him in that role.
So from about 2014, when he became a solo act, when he left the Shield, to about 2019, he was definitely booed quite heavily because people know that this is not, like, he did not have an organic rise to the top as other wrestlers before him have, who didn't get the same level of push from the WWE. This was like, hey, your bloodline, your genes, your gene pool, your family, you're a big Samoan dude, you're The Rock's cousin, you are the brother of this guy, the nephew of this guy, like your grandpas are these guys, right? Like they're looking for their next.
It's just
Rock,
weird.
their
It's
next
weird
John
to me
Cena.
because every time I've looked at him, he looks like a heel. He's always got that cocky fucking face on. Like,
Yeah, and that was
he would have been a great heel. It feels like.
Yeah,
Mostly
and that was
quiet, just smiles at you.
Yeah, that was the problem. Is he was booked into an uncharacteristic role for him. Had he been pushed as the next big main villain of the company, I think the fan reactions toward him earlier in his career would have been a lot better, and that would have made him becoming the face, the baby face, the good guy. Whenever, because nobody stays heel forever. Some people do stay face forever, because it's just like you can't boo them. Like it's just so hard to boo. Like Rey Mysterio, a guy 5'3", it would be so hard to like boo him because kids love him. He's had a history of like giving his mask away to kids. Yeah. Like he'll come to the ring with two masks, one to give away.
Yeah, you said enough saying he's 5'3". That's all you need. Everyone's gonna love the guy who looks out of place.
Yeah, but you look at someone like Roman Reigns, like you can sell him this big, giant guy, Samoan dude, looks like he could kick your ass. You could definitely put him in that heel role, and then eventually he's going to become so cool that you don't want to boo him.
Yeah.
You want to root for the guy because he's like an ass kicker. You're like, yeah, I love this dude. And to some extent, he has now kind of reached that status, but it took so long to get there. And it kind of took him having a health scare, too, for fans to appreciate him.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was an undrafted free agent for the Vikings, but then he did a physical. They found out he had leukemia, and they were like, never mind.
Oh shit! I didn't know that he was he signed on to the Vikings.
Well, yeah,
I knew he
didn't
spent some time in the CFL.
He didn't pass the physical, so then he had to move on from there. And I guess
you know who else coincidentally enough was an undrafted free agent for the Vikings and wrestled.
I feel like I'm gonna know who this is when you tell me.
Whoa! Ooh, I'm about to sneeze. Oh gosh! Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
Yeah, who is in Madden 2006, I believe.
Oh, he actually made the roster?
Who?
Lesnar?
No, he made like the final cuts. So he was on the last line of cuts for the Vikings.
Cool.
So
I knew he was trying to make the team at one point, but I didn't realize he actually made the cut.
Yeah, and hold on.
He's cut during preseason, so he wasn't even a.
Yeah, he was cut in preseason, but he was like the final He was along the final cuts of.
That was after he
Freezes.
started in WWE, which is pretty nuts. It's not usually the way that
Yeah.
works.
Not at all. But he almost made it into the NFL, which is how freaky athletic that guy was. Probably still is. But yeah, no. Back to the whole Roman Reigns discussion, though, of like what you've been reading online. Yes, you are definitely right in saying that this guy looks like a natural heel, and
he acts
kinda
like one, even though he's not supposed to be. He acts like one, at least from what I've seen. Like I said, he doesn't. In the clips I've seen, it's a lot of him not talking and just smiling at people. And that's not what your baby face, I would think, is. Your baby face, I would think, is the one like hyping the crowd.
Well, here's the thing. He was definitely a really bad talker early on in his career.
Okay.
We kind of mentioned it earlier, but WWE invested so much money and time into the guy, they were not going to let him fail. So they would throw him out there, and there was moments where he would be in the ring with really good talkers, and they would just make him look stupid. Because WWE would feed him some terrible lines, right? Sometimes, the writers back there, they have to do a bulk of the talking for the wrestlers. The wrestlers got to memorize these lines. But I implore you to watch this on YouTube anytime you have a chance. John Cena, Roman Reigns promo battle. And John Cena, probably the greatest talker in WWE history.
That's crazy.
Because
I missed his era, but I like him as an actor.
And he's such a great. Great's different. He's a really good, entertaining actor on screen.
Have you seen Peacemaker?
I've seen like the first 2 episodes. I really enjoyed him.
I thought he was incredible in that show. I think he fits that role really well, and in obviously the Suicide Squad. But
yeah, I think there's he does really action comedy really well. Which, duh, I mean wrestling.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't
know what his range is.
I don't think The Rock's as good as he is at it.
No, although this is the best acting of The Rock's career, which is this run that he's doing in WWE.
Well, yeah, him in WWE, I think he's fine, but some of his movies, I'm a little Although I liked him in Ballers on HBO.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because he was just playing basically himself.
Yeah, but back to this though. John Cena dressed the guy down on the mic, and it was a very embarrassing moment for Roman Reigns' career. And it took him a long time. Now, Roman Reigns, great on the mic. Absolute wonderful asshole on the mic. His mannerisms are great. Facial expressions are really good. And he really cuts through and is like, you know what? I'm a bully. I'm a villain here. And I'm going to make you feel that as I talk on the mic. And he's done so well. I never want to see him be a face ever again, personally. It's going to happen. Maybe not now. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year or two.
And I guess
it's a natural evolution.
Me where I'm like, they brought The Rock back in, and I know everyone's going to cheer for him, so I immediately assume that he's the good guy.
So, what you're hearing really is like the cheers of like, oh my gosh, it's The Rock,
yeah,
right?
For sure. I just felt like I felt like if they're bringing him back, then they would only bring him back to be a good guy. I didn't realize that they would bring him back to be kind of a heel. Sort of.
Well, they had to pivot to him being a heel, right? Because the fan reaction was really visceral to The Rock, essentially stealing the main event from Cody Rhodes. Because Cody Rhodes won in storyline the Royal Rumble, and the winner of the Royal Rumble becomes the headlining, gets the headline WrestleMania.
Okay. Gets
the headline WrestleMania against the champion of his choosing. His or her choosing. Because there's 2 Royal Rumbles now for men and women. And so Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble. They've been building for over almost a year at that point to his rematch with Roman Reigns at this year's WrestleMania. And then Rock returns on an episode of Smackdown where Cody Rhodes tells Roman Reigns, is like, hey, I'm going to finish the story against you, but not at WrestleMania, buddy. No, which left everybody confused. Rock comes back. There's going to be a natural cheer for him, but also as the nostalgia wears off and like logic comes back, you're like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. Why would he give up his spot to The Rock? And then, the backlash, quick, loud, and WWE, they pivot. They pivot to make The Rock a heel, and he is so good at it that now he is sided with his cousin, Roman Reigns. And yeah, you're going to have people cheer for The Rock, but he will make a point to get you to boo him at some point during the show. Which he definitely insulted the crowd at one point, I believe. I forgot what he said about Texas.
I don't quite remember, but yeah, he talked some trash for sure.
Yeah, and he is going to make sure to get boos, that's for sure. So
now let me ask you this, and this might be getting too far ahead of myself, but I definitely know that I've seen some people theorizing and positing that potentially night 2 of WrestleMania there could be another Attitude Era nostalgic surprise entrance, because supposedly this guy Austin 316's been training for a few months now. Do you have any thoughts? Do you think that's something they would do? Is bring him in to help Cody Rhodes?
That would be really fun. I don't necessarily think they'll bring in Stone Cold Steve Austin for that in particular. What I think they will do is they're going to bring him in for something else.
Okay.
For sure. For something else. Because, yes, The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin had a great rivalry during their time in WWE.
I just watched this morning when Stone Cold drove the beer truck and sprayed down the McMahons and The Rock with it. So funny.
Yes. That was a great bit right there.
Yeah, it's really good. I love, dude. He's the reason I watched. He was so good.
Oh man, he was really a one of a kind talent for his era. But as far as he is concerned, I don't think he's going to come into that particular event. Now, John Cena has been teasing doing something at WrestleMania. It wouldn't surprise me if John Cena gets involved in this particular match, mostly because
he's more relevant.
John Cena. It's not even necessarily relevant. It's more a connection to the characters involved. So with The Rock, he had a huge.
But everyone else is after that era, so
yeah, he had a huge WrestleMania bout with The Rock at 27 and 28, WrestleMania 27, 28, and then with Roman Reigns, they'd had their squabbles in storyline with essentially the torch being passed down from John Cena to Roman Reigns as the face of the company. Like, who is the character that we're going to promote as, you look at this guy. This is our number one attraction here. It used to be John Cena for a long time. And there was times during Roman Reigns' ascent, whether, natural or not, which it wasn't, where John Cena was forced to step in and do a program with Roman Reigns to try to help the guy.
Just to pump it up, yeah.
Just to pump it up, and Roman Reigns would actually look worse for wear, even though he would get the better of John Cena. It didn't matter to the crowd, right? But now Roman Reigns doesn't need John Cena anymore, and John Cena can just do whatever he wants. You can kind of tell the story of John Cena coming in to help, because that's just the kind of guy that he is. And he did have a moment where John Cena had a brief return to WWE earlier this last year. He gives what they call the rub, where like an established veteran does something to acknowledge or push the younger talent, be like, seal of approval, right? He raised Cody Rhodes' arms in approval, and like did one of these, like, this is my guy, or whatever. So it wouldn't surprise me. He comes in and intervenes whenever the bloodline does eventually come and interfere in that main event on night 2.
And then another question I have for you here is, do you think this Rock stuff was planned a long time ago, or do you think with the most recent McMahon news they had to have someone else who could come in and distract from all that?
Maybe a little column A, a little column B.
I don't, Vince was obviously used to be in the ring all the time. I don't know if they even do any of those corporate guys anymore at all.
They did for a little bit, and then
Shane
McMahon and his sister Stephanie, they're not involved with the company anymore. And this was because of the presence of their father. and that's its own bag of worms right there.
So I was kind of thinking that was maybe why they're bringing The Rock in, because they don't have that piece. They don't have the corporate piece anymore.
You need
to have the corporate person for the fans to hate, which is why Stone Cold versus Vince was always so good.
So the problem with that is it did eventually run its course and it got stale. Like back in 2014, like from 2012 to about 2016, you had what was known as like, or maybe it's like 2013. 2013 to 2016, you had the corporate entity known as the Authority. So Triple H took the place of Vince McMahon as like the corporate bad guy because he was now part of the corporation in an executive role. So was his wife, Stephanie McMahon, and then their group of chosen wrestlers, right? And the thing was, it got stale. It got stale real quick, and right now they don't have like a corporate bad guy, mostly because now they're just kind of pivoting towards, we don't need one, we just need to make somebody.
The Rock is now, basically, if he's a heel and he owns stake in the company, all the fans know that, right?
They know that, yes, but
so he's kind of filling that role while also being The Rock.
Yes, but I don't believe that he is going to fill that role long term. My view on this and what I think will be happening at WrestleMania, because they're going to kind of tease this. They're really good at foreshadowing very subtly. So if you've noticed, whenever Roman Reigns told the crowd, "Acknowledge me," you probably saw me do this, but everybody put a finger in the air, right? They just put one up. Whenever The Rock gets involved with that particular performance or that particular part of the show where it's like, "Acknowledge me," and then they do their sign off with the one in the air, he's doing an L. And at first people thought, oh, The Rock doesn't know the product. He's not watching. This guy, how could he mess up something so simple? And then, and you can see this image on the internet if you look hard enough, one of the members of the Bloodline named Paul Heyman, he's looking at The Rock with a very curious look. This is the second time The Rock does the one-up in the air, and he's doing the L yet again. And Paul Heyman's just looking at him with a very curious look, like, what is he doing? Why is he doing that? And there is a theory going around that The Rock is basically the mole inside the Bloodline. Like, he is a double agent of some sort. And you see there right there. Yep.
Is he the guy in red? Is that Paul Heyman?
Paul Heyman is the big blue, the big fat dude.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so what I was saying is, so there's an idea going around that he might be costing Roman Reigns the match at WrestleMania.
His own cousin or whatever.
His own cousin, so they can build to what has been a dream match of some sort of Roman Reigns versus The Rock at either next year's WrestleMania or the next big event that WWE is going to have, which is their SummerSlam event in August. Because WWE has essentially four pay-per-views: Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, and WrestleMania. Right? One in the summer, one in the spring, and one in the fall, one in the winter. Is essentially their big four pay-per-views. So that's a prevailing theory. I am amongst that group of people who believe that might happen. I'm not saying it will or will not. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't.
Well, the fans would love it, I bet.
Oh, absolutely. And it kind of also would not finish Roman Reigns' character arc, but it would add to his character arc, which is, for those of you wondering, like, why is he a bad guy, or what's some of the subtleties of this, or what are some of the nuances of his story arc as a character, right, being a heel. The Raw before this SmackDown that we went to, Seth Rollins, who was part of the Shield with Roman Reigns, acknowledged that
was Rhodes in the Shield too?
No.
Okay.
Rhodes was not in the Shield, but he did have an interesting story with the Shield when him and his brother were in WWE prior to both of their most recent releases. So Seth Rollins betrayed the Shield, right? He betrayed Roman Reigns and their fellow Shield member named Dean Ambrose, who now wrestles as Jon Moxley at AEW. He betrayed the Shield, right? And then Jay and Jimmy Uso, who Jimmy Uso was the guy in red that you saw in that photo. He's a member of the Bloodline. He had trust issues with the Usos, becoming part of the Bloodline, right? And so he basically beat them into submission and like forced them to be loyal to him, right? Why? Because Seth Rollins betrayed him, stabbed him in the back, if you will, and that is part of like this why the Bloodline exists in storyline, right? You're like, oh shit, like Roman Reigns has trust issues because of what Seth Rollins did, and now fast forward to what's happening right now. The story is going to be The Rock now betrays Roman Reigns as the next, character
Right,
in his
catch a break type thing.
Yeah, in the next part of his story arc as a person in WWE. So that might be why I think this theory is really solid and why we might see it, because it just makes sense within his story, right? He gets betrayed the first time many years ago, and then 10 years later at WrestleMania gets betrayed yet again
by the biggest star
and a member of his family, a member of his
and a member of the
bloodline.
corporate ownership.
Yeah. Although I don't think the corporate ownership has anything to do with this part. I think it's just going to be so Seth Rollins,
Well, I
he
feel
saw
like
as
he
a
was using his position to make the stakes, right? By saying that I own this company, basically, so I can make these stakes. I thought he said something similar to that on the stage.
He said so he said, because I'm a member of the board,
yeah,
I will do everything in my power to make sure you Cody Rhodes you never get this title match, right? However, I don't believe that to be part of the actual story that's going to be told, because I think The Rock is going to betray Roman Reigns.
Right.
He's just saying all this to build trust between him and Roman Reigns. And then once Roman Reigns is at his most vulnerable in regards to, his trust with The Rock, that's when I think The Rock betrays him, costs him the match, Cody Rhodes becomes the champion, and now we build to the next story, which is Rock versus Roman, which will probably take place at next year's WrestleMania, because those two have very limited schedules.
And I was just reminded of, we were talking about they were kind of long-winded when they were all four in the ring, and both sides did the you're gonna let him speak for you bit, and I just remember like they didn't need to both do like that. I remember that feeling really weird that both sides had someone being like, he's gonna speak for you. It's like
Well, yeah, but I mean, they're trying to get under each other's skin
for sure.
And
it felt like they forgot who was supposed to use that line, so both sides ended up using it.
Honestly, I think that was a deliberate choice.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not saying it was a good choice. I'm just saying it felt deliberate to me.
Like if you're gonna use that, that's like a one punch, and then no one needs to bring that one back out. But I just remembered that while we were talking that, so I wanted to bring it up before I forgot.
Yeah. No, you're all good.
We should. I do want to mention before I forget again one other thing that was weird, and maybe this is obviously because I don't follow a lot. But the whole damage control thing, they spent so much time on that.
Yes, and they are because they want to give the women their time in the spotlight. It is the most I gotta say this. So with the damage control, that storyline has been building for a couple years now, and it's long-term storytelling of the girl who is the number one contender to one of the girls in. Her name's Io Sky. She's the champion in damage control. Bailey, she is the number one contender. She gets betrayed by the damage control girls that she personally picked out to be part of damage control. So what we're doing with that storyline is we're following Bailey, who used to be this fan favorite baby face. Like all the little girls in the audience loved Bailey. And then eventually she kind of grows stale as a character. And then eventually the crowd turns on her. So she turns her back on them. Becomes a heel, creates a heel faction, but now things are like naturally swinging back to where she is a baby face, and they've been teasing for quite some time that Damage Control is going to turn their back on her, because you look at who's in the group. You have 3 Japanese women, 1 Australian chick, and for those of you who don't know, these women are EO champion, your Smackdown women's champion, the Kabuki Warriors, your women's tag team champions, Asuka and Kairi Sane, and then you have the other member, Dakota Kai. Right? What has happened is Io Sky, Dakota Kai, and Bailey, they were the original members of Damage Control. The other 2 women join along, but the influence of the other 2 Japanese women kind of takes over, and Bailey slowly but surely is becoming more and more distant from the group. She wins the Women's Royal Rumble. She teases that she's going to challenge the Raw Women's Champion, so everybody in Damage Control could be a champion, right? You have 1 girl on Raw, 1 girl on SmackDown, and then the 2 tag team champions, or the 2 girls who are tag team champions, they can defend on all of the brands that WWE has, right?
I like that.
So they have a steady presence everywhere. And they've been teasing naturally that they were going to turn on Bailey. It happened, and now you have to build to it. They haven't done as great of a job as they could. The first time they did it, they did the portrayal. It was wonderful. It was great, but like you saw at the event,
she did like the interview with I can't remember who she talked to. I was trying to find it, but
I don't remember who she was interviewing.
Bianca Belair, or
no, she wasn't interviewed by Bianca Belair. Although Bianca Belair had a segment.
They talked about it, right? Her and that other girl with the
the other girl was named Naomi.
Is she the one who had the light up hair?
Yes.
Like
so
that.
they talked about it. Bianca Belair has a history of Damage Control being a thorn in her side, and they took the title away from her. So she clearly has no sympathy for Bailey. And then Naomi, who has been around the company for a long time, she got released. She came back. She has a history with Bailey, positive history. So she's like, that's her one and only semi-ally.
I did see some people theorizing that those two, that Naomi at some point is going to step in to do something to help out Bailey, but I don't know.
It has happened. This previous episode of SmackDown.
Oh, okay.
This previous episode of SmackDown, Naomi, or not this previous episode, but the episode
Naomi
before that.
For defending her from Damage Control last week, Naomi told Bianca Belair she needed the help after Belair got in Bailey's face.
Yeah,
Is
so
that the most recent one?
I believe this most recent one.
A few recaps pulled up, so I could just look at them for notes. But
yeah, but this previous episode, I believe Bailey gets attacked backstage prior to Naomi's match with Io Sky. They have a great match. I highly recommend anybody watch that match if you want to see 2 athletic women beat the hell out of each other in WWE ring. And then as the match devolves, the rest of Damage Control comes in, beats up on Naomi. Bianca Belair comes in to save Naomi, and they're going to build towards Naomi and Bianca Belair siding with Bailey, although Bianca will do it begrudgingly because, again, she has beef with Bailey. But as far as that event went, when we went, it could have been better. It could have been smoother. And it could have been something a little bit more meaningful than just a out-of-ring interview that we saw, which was probably a pre-tape segment.
Yeah.
But any other questions from that particular event that you wanted to know about?
Let me go through here. I've got the thing pulled up. There was that weird thing where the guy was like making fun of Dragon Lee. That felt unnecessary.
Yeah, so
but again,
Santos Escobar.
With me not knowing any context before, I'm seeing all this stuff like hit me for the first time. So I'm like, I don't care about this. So that's probably where that comes from, my feeling on it. Because I just don't know anything about that.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you right now. So that what we saw, which was Santos Escobar's faction.
Legado del Fantasma.
Legado del Fantasma. So they've been beefing with Rey Mysterio's faction known as the LWO, Latino World Order. And Dragon Lee has Dragon Lee is being built up as the next Rey Mysterio, the undersized luchador that connects with the crowd and is just impossible to root against. And yeah, it's not working. It's not hitting hard, but they've done a really bad job in building up the LWO and making people care about them. And then with Fantasma de what was the name again? Legado. Yeah, Legado de Fantasma. Same there. Like they're just making all
is get someone in Legado del Fantasma to wear a mask and let's get an actual straight up mask off.
Mask off.
I don't know what you call it.
You mean a lucha de apuestas, a mask versus mask, or
I want it to be whoever takes the mask off wins.
The problem is you can't do that, unfortunately, because you have the only person. So you have Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio. The point of the mask is one, like you have to have the mask beforehand, right? You don't go from an unmasked wrestler to a masked wrestler.
Yeah, they need to have a masked person, but I guess they would have to introduce somebody brand new to do that. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, because
wrestler just put a mask on them, and then no one knows until they take the mask off. And then all of a sudden,
then
my
that just
God, it's Mankind. Who knew?
Right.
Big fat white guy.
However, because it's all, with Mankind, yeah, that's a nice bit. But however, in Lucha Libre edition, that's just cheapening the whole thing. So you unfortunately couldn't do it that way.
Yeah, it's fine. That was I don't know. That would be interesting for me just because I like that concept for a fight.
Yeah, no, it would have been a great concept. However, it's unfortunate that we really won't be able to get that ever, unless they introduce a new mask wrestler that joins with.
Start working out.
You gotta brush it up on your Spanish just a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll just do some
Cheech Marin. It'll be fine.
Oh, I don't know if you're gonna get away with that one in this age, brother.
I won't.
Not even a little bit. But yeah, with that though, as much as I love to see Lucha Libre and I love to see Mexican wrestlers shine, they're just throwing all the Mexican wrestlers at each other for some like one-off event at WrestleMania. I can already tell they're gonna all right, it's gonna be a Mexican off. You have the good Mexican, Puerto Rican guys on one side.
I was gonna ask,
then you have the bad ones on the other.
Is it actually all Mexican, or is it a lot of just mixed Latin America?
So in Latino World Order LWO, you have a couple of Puerto Ricans, and some Mexicans, and then in Legado de Fantasma, I'm not as familiar with that group, but I believe those are all Mexican wrestlers.
We'll find out.
I am like 85% sure.
It's gonna be tough.
So.
Okay. Santos Escobar.
I know he's Mexican.
Electra Lopez.
Angel Humberto. So Angel is Mexican. Humberto, Berto is Mexican, and then Electra.
She's from New Jersey.
She is. Oh, she's probably.
Her last
from
name
Jersey.
is
She's
Rivera, though, so she's at least of Latin descent.
Oh, so she's of Puerto Rican descent.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's of Puerto Rican descent. I just pulled up her Wikipedia. So, you typically in wrestling, you're going to get a lot of Puerto Rican and a lot of Mexican. Not to say that there isn't other types of Latin American representation in wrestling, but just in general, those seems to be like the prevailing
the Dominicans ones. And the Venezuelans are too busy playing baseball.
Your words, not mine.
They're damn good at it, man.
They are. MLB. Hey, so Puerto Ricans are no slouches in MLB either.
They're third tier though.
I would say they're.
I think in sheer numbers. I don't know if we're talking about sheer numbers.
Sheer numbers. We'll have to look that up for demographics before any Puerto Rican fans we get in the future look up this episode. I'm like, how dare they disparage us?
I'm not disparaging anyone. I just I'm just going off numbers.
Off numbers. That's fair. But yeah, I believe that is everybody I believe that is all the groups or all the members of the group who are of Mexican or Puerto Rican descent.
Okay, here you go. In the MLB, US of A has brought in 525 players, Dominican Republic 90, Venezuela 53, Cuba 20, Puerto Rico 19. And there's all your double digits or more. But yeah,
there you go.
That was 2 years ago, so yeah.
Nice.
That might also just be because their population might be smaller.
Okay. That makes sense. Oh shit, wait a minute. One member, I believe, of the LWO may not be Latino.
Hell yeah. I mean,
he might be Filipino. That's kind of crazy.
That's always funny. I don't know what it is about the Filipino that seems like they can play any ethnicity, it feels like.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
In TV, they seem to they seem to be like the most multiversatile, something like that. They seem to have the most options.
I suppose so. But yeah, that covers that part of what you were asking about. You got any more questions you want to throw my way?
I don't think so. We had that weird thing where the guy smashed a TV, and then I guess this week he was quote unquote arrested.
Yes.
I can't wait to see that the footage that was provided by WWE's digital team.
Yeah, no, that one that's going to be fun. So that guy's LA Knight, he's great. He's wonderful. He's a kind of a throwback to the Attitude Era. In his mannerisms, the way he speaks. If you ever get to see him do a just look up one of his entrances, any of his entrances, he kind of gives you the vibe of like a Rock, Stone Cold kind of mixture, just in the way like he moves, his mannerisms, the way he speaks.
The swaying upper body.
Yeah, it's clearly a throwback character, but in a good way. It kind of pays homage to that era, and I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Love that guy.
It's my wheelhouse, so I'll be in for it.
Yeah, and he has the crowd in the palm of his hands. So whenever he does his signature call out of his name, it's like with everybody saying, or whose game is it? With everybody saying, and he'll point to the crowd. One part will be LAA Knight. Yeah. That's his whole shtick right there. Love it.
Yeah, and I don't think we actually saw him. I don't even know if he was there. The pre-tape, it might have happened actually at the American Airlines Center, but it might not have. Him smashing the TV, who knows?
Probably. But yeah, him and AJ Styles will be having a match at WrestleMania.
Which AJ Styles absolutely sounds like a boy band member.
Hey man, he's known as the phenomenal one. All right, and if you look up AJ Styles' early career, he kind of looked like a boy band member who was just decided to get real jacked.
Oh, yeah. He could easily be a member of, like, Nickelback or Creed now.
Now, but, like, back then, look up AJ Styles, like, 2004.
Oh, yeah, I'm seeing it. He's got fucking emo hair.
Like, he looks like a member of 98 Degrees or, Backstreet Boys, like he could have been a member of either one, but he's just like the really jacked one for some reason.
You gotta have one.
Yeah.
Like when the Simpsons did it and they let Nelson be in there because you had to have a bad boy.
You had to have a bad boy. So he could have been the bad boy in that case. So yeah, that one.
I think that basically covers most of the stuff I was thinking about. I didn't realize that I got to see new intros with The Rock and Tiffy Time. I don't know if that was the first time they've played that, but I know that it's pretty new.
Yeah, so Tiffany Stratton, she's new to the main roster, if you will, because NXT is the quote-unquote developmental brand. It's like their minor league.
Did they buy it? Didn't NXT used to exist? No. What am I thinking of?
NXT is a. You might be thinking of WCW.
No, I think that I just heard about NXT and I just assumed it was separate. I didn't realize it was like a G League.
Sort of, yeah. So it was the development of NXT was meant to essentially have established veterans from the independent scene work with their new like these new talents
give
that
people reps
have
without
no
putting them on the main show. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so they're exposed to guys who know girls and guys who know what they're doing in the ring.
Yeah.
So you develop those who are brand new to wrestling in general, and now it's kind of more of a like, you know what, new guys, new girls versus each other. And they'll probably have limited independent wrestling experience to no independent wrestling experience. But that is their show for developmental talent, and now whoever gets called up to the main roster, they get put in Raw, SmackDown. Tiffany Stratton got called up to SmackDown, and we have her new entrance.
So that means they announce you as a SmackDown superstar. Is that what that phrase means?
Yes.
Because apparently that happened last week with another woman, Jade Cargill.
Yes, although she is from AEW, or she was from AEW, and so she jumped ship. And
I always just forget how goddamn muscular these people are.
Yeah,
she's just
she
like a
is
walking muscle.
She is, man, absolute, just powerhouse of a woman. And yeah, I mean, you got some other wrestling body types like Kevin Owens.
Oh yeah,
who wrestles with a gut
earlier.
Yeah, Mankind for sure. If you look up Kevin Owens,
Mankind was
what's up?
He was the one who got on Boy Meets World, right?
Maybe there's also a guy named Big Van Vader who got on
No, it was
Boy Meets World.
Mick Foley. That's Mankind, right?
Yes.
Yeah. He did Socko to one of the guys in Boy Meets World. Hilarious. Okay.
Oh yes, he did. I just saw the clip
as a kid, and even now, Socko's one of the most disgusting things I've ever thought about. Pulling a sock from your crotch and shoving it in someone's mouth. My God, that's awful.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not the worst
for the product.
move to take.
It's entertaining as hell.
Yeah, there was actually one that was even worse. And it's called the Rikishi Stink Face.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah, I'm like, there's no winning on either one of those, but that one, both were pretty bad.
Oh shit.
Yeah. But yeah, if there is anything else you got, otherwise we can wrap up episode 1.
I think I unloaded the clip on you. I'm gonna watch some stuff this week. I'm gonna try to keep up every week, even if it's just on short recaps. I probably am not gonna be watching every Friday Night Live or Monday Raw or all those, but I'll watch some YouTube clips for sure.
And there's
yeah, go ahead.
There's and I'll show you this to you. There's I'm gonna have to send it to you. There's actually a guy I believe on Instagram and TikTok, like he has both accounts, right? Where he's like, and here's WWE Raw or WWE SmackDown in 2 minutes or less, and he just gives you the full recap of what happened. So I'd like to show that to you too.
I've been watching some Australian. So I think he's an Australian guy on YouTube that breaks stuff down and makes funny comments about it. But yeah, I wouldn't mind a shorter version because he takes a long time to do it. So,
and then if you ever want to go back and watch an episode, I have found a streaming site, an archive of sort that'll let you do it.
Yeah, I've seen those posted around on some movie sites as well.
So I'll send you the one that I've been using recently. If you want to just watch it live, there's one site, and then if you want to watch the archive, there's a different site, and I'll send that to you. And you can also watch AEW and WWE as well. So there's all that stuff.
Well, man,
and
this is fun. I'm glad we're doing this. Sorry for the delays. I gotta all of a sudden told I gotta move really quick.
That's fair, man. Life happens. Thank you for doing this with me, and then for our growing audience, thank you for tuning in. We'll hit you over the head with a steel chair with more wrestling next time on the next Wrestling Royale. Hit my music if I have any.